Motherfuckers, hello, and today I'm going to share with us my analysis of the 8th round of the Rapid World Champion Under 20 that I played in Peru 1 week ago. Until this round, I have 4 points of 7, so that's a so bad result, of course. But okay, let's see how goes the game. Only left the round and the following, so the maximum point that I could make was 6. So, like, you're watching the result that I lost. So, okay, let's show the game. Okay, my opponent came with a Spanish opening. I respond with a6. This okay. Let's start at 45, knight f6, knight f3, knight c6, bishop b5, b5, a6, bishop a4, knight f6, and he came with a solid line, so equal d3. The main move was castle here. Okay, d3, bishop c5. I chose bishop c5 instead of b5 because of course I played last many times. But here knight c3 was, of course, that's equal, but was interesting. I prefer a little bit to play bishop c5 and then after c3 then play b5. Okay, my opponent plays castle, so I chose to move b5 to bishop b3. And here I saw castle, but this was playable too. Um, example, bishop d5, a6, I have knight a5 here. That's the idea of the 6 for the reason why I should play c3. And now I have two options, or play like with castle simply, then enter in that position, with bishop e6, or bishop e6 here, or bishop e6. Or I can avoid bishop g5 playing g6, but I think that is not so necessary. But all the positions are more or less equal, are simply different type of position. But it was so interesting. Maybe I prefer the to avoid bishop g5 lines to enter in a more known and more easy ways to play for black because example a6 with 92 Thompson castle. And I have some games in that position. For example, I beat Karen, Cuban girl in Barcelona summer in this line. So, but this is more or less equal. But okay, after castle, bishop g5, now the game turns into a sub way. A6 with a4. And in this type of position, I always play with g5, bishop g3, and now d6, for example. Bishop here, 92, 95, knight h5, and I used to play always with h5, and after h5, g5, sorry, black have many plans to improve in the king side. One was, of course, knight e4, uh, knight h5, bishop d4 was interesting too, because white only can play h3, and after bishop h5, d4 is not possible. Knight h7 to defend the g5 pawn, followed by h5, h4 was interesting too. Knight d7 with the same idea. Queen e7 is used to be useful. King g7, rook h5, logical too. But yeah, bishop b6 always useful, or bishop b6 or bishop a7 was always good moves here. And here, knight a5, and then knight h5 was normal here. But in this game, I don't know why, maybe to change a little bit and to didn't play with open king in a rapid game. Well, I'm not used to it. Maybe in the rapid game, I prefer to have the king safe. I chose the move bishop e7. Can be, can looks like a little bit strange because I moved twice the bishop in the opening, but it's common when your opponent spin you the knight on f6, return from c5 to b7. I prefer a little bit to play with d5, but okay, in this game I decide to play bishop e7, rook e1, d6, c3, and here, and happened many times during the game, I should play that move, because first I'm trading my bad bishop, who is the dark bishop, dark square bishop, and I'm going to f4 with the knight, so that's so logical move. As I trade the bad bishop, I'm going to f6, but to f4, sorry, and here I have no problem. I don't know why I didn't play that move. Rook e8, knight e2. Again, I have the same knight h5, of course. But I play knight a5, c5, which is not a bad plan, but the idea of knight h5 was better. knight f1. I return to c because the knight is not making nothing on a5, so knight c6 full move. And here I have the same idea, but this time with knight d4. Playing his, for example, what is the best piece for white at the moment? The a3 knight. He spent 3 times to place the knight on e3. And my worst piece could be maybe the b, so I don't know if it's my worst piece. Maybe the c6 knight. But his best piece was the e3 knight. And I could trade my bad bishop of e7 and his good knight in only one move with knight d4. But for example, if you take here, I can take with knight to improve my knight and control d5 and f5. And here I have no problem. I trade in my bad pieces and I have more space in the center, so I'm fine. Instead of that, I play bishop e6, will have no so much sense. And here again, I have the same move, of course. Knight g4. I still without playing before. And he finally traded my knight. Good decision. And bishop b3. Good decision too. Trying to take all the control of the light square. Of course, I cannot take because now the light squares become so weak. c4 and d5, f5. So I should keep the bishop on e6. And if he trades, so if he trades, we take with the pawn and defend the f5 and d5 squares from the knight jumps. And look that my f6 bishop is so worse, but it's not the end of the world. That position I have space on the queen side. This bishop in one day can go to d5 to be trade. Of course, white is fine, but it's not the end of the world. Bishop d5, we can move. Okay, queen c7. The machines prefer the queen on d7, but okay, also bad. H4. Now bishop d8 was good. I know this was a typical plan. It was better with the queen on d8 to place the bishop on d7 on d8 to then go to b6 or a5 depending on well white play because an f6 is not making nothing. But I know that plan of bishop d8, but in the game I didn't think about that. Bishop d7 is 4. Okay, I close h5 to doesn't allow my opponent to take space. Knight d2. Now you can move it. Maybe in that starting moment the knight can go to d5 in some lines, but was so typical to go to d2 with this knight, d6, d3, bishop d7. I have knight d7 a little bit better, but okay, I prefer to place the bishop d7 first, and then I go with knight d7. He plays bishop, and now I have now the problem of the knight square. The only good square that white have was c4, but that's not so important. Now the file was open, and I like my position because I take the control of this square. I have control of his breakthrough with f4 and d4. He only have c4, but you know, going to beat me with only one square, of course. a5, like a move, not knight c6. I'm not sure about knight c6, but okay, it's attacking a5 and it's defending d4. So, and d4, and now the machine prefer rook f8 followed by queen f7 a little bit. But okay, I thought that queen 7 was good. Takes, queen f3, rook f8, queen g3. And here I play queen h5 because I was thinking on the game. I was thinking about queen g3 takes, pawn takes, knight d6, but I doesn't know that I have the same pawns here. I was thinking I'm losing a pawn. I don't remember that here I have a pawn up. I just simply count bad the pawns. But okay, queen h5 was interesting too. King h2, f4, okay. Here rook h1 was the best. The problem is that there is a fourth line where I lost a rook. Queen two. I of course I saw the game. Of course I saw a rook h1. Of course queen two, rook e1, queen d3, rook e1, queen e4, and after f3 my queen is trapped. That's what I missed. And here I should sacrifice the rook. And, okay, I have four pawns for the rook, but I have some contemplate for the rook. But okay, I'm a rook down. But with some contemplate. But after rook d1, I have a huge advantage. Bishop f6, threatening bishop h4, it's winning. Rook f bf8, not bad. Rook d2, and again, bishop f6, bishop h4, winning. Okay, I didn't find this plan. No, I find what I no, I didn't play. bishop rook h4, rook dd1, he returns because here is not making nothing on. Okay, of course, in d2 is defending the f2 pawn, and now with the rook on h4, rook dd1 was the best move. Now here I have this tactic that I saw, but the last move that I didn't find was bishop f6. If I what's this move, maybe I could verify some too. And I play a so risky move with d5, so breaking everything, everything is hanging out. But I suppose that the crazy thing benefits me. And more or less, I have the reason, but was so strange in this position. Now rook is h1, and I should double rooks with one. That's the correct way to increase the attack. And having a easy way to defend. But after trade and queen e2, simply after takes, white have no problems. e4 was good to move the water. Okay, the knight f4 will move. After take takes, the position was so equal, and I should be careful because here I should take here, automate, and simply take the pawn and give the g6 pawn and move the rook. And the position is equal. Both sides we only have 3 pawns, so and the f3 and d3 is going to trade, and the position was so equal. But instead of that, I made knight e5. I completely missed the move 96. So after all the trades, with rook hanging, who is slightly better for white and more pleasant, especially because white have a pawn. Well, it's not a pawn, but it's more pleasant than it. Here, the was better to keep the king on f7 because he cannot advance because it's rook a2. So the king h6 move had no sense. It was better to keep the king on f7. I don't know what I placed the king on h5. Okay, g5 and g4 was good, but here I cannot take this pawn. After c5, I'm losing. I have two options. The both options are focused to try to give, make a draw with rook c1, rook g1. So I play rook e5, king e5, sorry, followed by rook sorry, rook c1, rook g1, or rook c1 directly, and then king g5, rook c1, rook g1, and make a draw. But instead of that, I take on c5, and here I'm losing the rook a5, rook a8, sorry. And here I play queen g5 is adjusted after e6 is playing e7, rook e8, playing a queen there. So yes, I finally lost, and losing all the option of make a decent tournament, being with 4 points of 8. And yes, the game was interesting. Okay, the first was of course also interesting, and the here was normal. The idea of knight h5, again I have knight h5, the theme of trade the bishop, the dark bishop. And here was similar but with the knight on d4 instead of with knight h5, bishop e6. Yes, again I have all the time this idea of trade these bishops. I fail making that. And here I play this normally. Yes, I make my game, but yes, until here I like my game, but at this moment here I should take on e3 because I didn't calculate I calculated all the time, but I didn't see that my queen is trapped at the end. It's fine. And here I should play bishop f6, bishop a6, h4 winning. It's so simple. Bishop f6, then bishop h4, and I taking on f2. Stupid. And again, bishop f6, bishop h4 winning. Yeah, the main apart. Here I have this tactic that I saw the tactic, but I didn't saw bishop f6 at the end. Okay, here my last option to have advantage was f4, but then I failed twice. Okay, first, in last position I missed 96, but then I couldn't lose the rook game against a worse player than me. I should make a draw this game. Yes, first king h6 was strange, but this was the critical moment where I should play better. I'm taking d5. Let's see what g1. Playing out chess and making drawbacks. Okay, this wasn't my best tournament. Of course, I was playing so bad. But okay, sometimes plays well, sometimes I play bad. That's it. Only one round left, so I should won the round to win this. And with +1, so let's see how continues the tournament. Bye bye.